Card King, here I come. Hello, music fans, music collectors, and all hobbyists. Welcome to the Card King Sports and Variety Show. I am your host, the Catman, Brian Cataquet, a.k.a. the Card King. We are live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com, your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program acclaimed singer-songwriter, guitarist, who has performed with the likes of the Immediate Family, David Crosby Band, Our House. His current studio album was just released titled Walking Through These Blues. I welcome in the great Steve Postell. Steve, great to have you. Brian C.
Great to be here, live on the radio like the old days.
Yes, live. And, Steve, exciting times with this new release. Tell us a little bit about this, how the formation began. How did the birth arise? How did the birth arise, your new current release?
Well, I'm always writing and recording. I have a recording studio, and I'm a producer, so there's no reason to wait. And so I had almost finished a record, or I recorded a bunch of songs when COVID hit. And being an independent artist, there was no reason to put out a record when I couldn't go play. That's it. You have to be on the road. You have to be touring. So my manager and I decided to hold on to it. And then the Immediate Family put out a record during COVID, and we didn't want to compete. I didn't want to compete with my own band. So then the timing was right. I added a few more songs, remastered it, and finally it gets to see the light of day.
Now, how did the title track come about?
Oh, Walking Through These Blues?
Yeah.
That was actually interesting because, I do some songwriting workshops, and I talk about all the different ways a song can start. In other words, it can mean a title, an idea, the words, the melody, the groove, whatever. And this one started in an interesting way. I was teaching, and a student brought in a John Mayer song that he wanted to learn. John is, aside from a great singer and songwriter, he's a terrific guitar player. And it was a right-hand guitar figure that was a little tricky. My student couldn't figure it out, and very clever. So I learned it, taught my student the tune, and when he left, I said, I really like this pattern. And his song was a major. I said, look, I'm going to put it in a minor and see if something comes to mind. And so it started from having this right-hand groove that I stole from Mr. Mayer. And then sometimes songs just... There were ideas that I had that I was thinking about how we have to adapt to the things in life that are challenging, and we have to keep moving and walking through them, and that's kind of where it came from.
Interesting. Now you were not alone in putting together this piece of work. It's a remarkable collection of legendary musicians on this new release. Leland Sklar, Steve Ferrone, who was on this program. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. How was it recording with all these legendary artists?
Well, fortunately, and I feel very fortunate that they're all my friends. So we do, we work together whenever we can in different formations. And when I'm recording my own music, sometimes a song, I just get a vibe. Like, Steve Ferrone would be the right guy for this song, or Russ Kunkel's should play drums on this song, and so on and so forth. And so in the end, since I don't do it. Since I have my own studio, I'm not like, I got 5 days to record all the tracks. So, I can take my time. And I just call, my friends who happen to be some of the greatest musicians in the world. So it's why I moved to L.A., actually, to be around all these guys.
Absolutely, and I have a little excerpt of a song from this new album that I want to play. Let's see if we can hear a little excerpt of it.
Sure.
10,000 years we turned the earth for grain and gold. For what it's worth, every revolution is like another birth. New world to conquer, some distant shore. We always had enough, and we want more. Feels like evolution, but it's all been done before. Look how far we've come. Look how far we've come. How far we have to go. So comfortable, we're gonna sleep, wanna live high life, do it on the cheap. Flew me to Paris, train down to Rome. I missed all the scenery, just staring at my phone. We're so
And we just heard how far we've come, the new album, Walking Through These Blues, Steve Postell's latest work. Steve Postell is with us today. Steve, beautiful song, a real standout track there, features Glenn Phillips. Tell us a little bit about that track.
Well, I met Glenn and I we're on the same bill at an event, at a concert in Santa Barbara, and hit it off and enjoyed each other's work. He's the lead singer and writer for Toad the Wet Sprocket for all these years, which is a very cool indie band. And we just were hanging out after and said, we should really write together. And I think we have a lot of the same, we both play the guitar, and we just have a lot of the same musical inclinations, I think. And we got together, and kind of like the other song, this one we just started playing guitar, 2 acoustic guitars, and that feel just sort of popped out. And we were just both playing. I was playing the lines, and he was playing the groove, and then we just started talking about what we were thinking about, and it seemed like we both had been thinking a lot about how that we're in a time where technologically and in many ways, there's even sociologically, the world has come so far. It's so advanced. And yet, as we all know, with all the discord that's particularly happening now, there's a long way to go until it's closer to nirvana. So we thought that was that's what we were both thinking about, and that song came out of that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful track, no question about it. Now, for all our listeners, we have about 100,000 listeners during these hours. Where can they purchase this new CD, this new album? Give us all that information.
Well, I think it's all the normal, it's on Quarto Valley Records with a Q, and I think you can get it on iTunes. You can get it on Amazon. You can probably get it on the Quarto Valley Records site. All of the above. I think it's they have real distribution, which means it's on all the standard methods of getting music out in the world.
And this new studio album was it released yesterday?
Yesterday, yep.
Yesterday. And now tonight, isn't there a party happening or a new record release party in Santa Monica, California?
There is, and it's exciting for me because of it's at McCabe's, which is a very famous venue. It's actually a guitar shop in the day, and they've been having concerts there in the back room for over 50 years, and the list of people who've played there is pretty phenomenal, from Joni Mitchell to, I mean, you name it, Jackson Browne and on and on. I put together, we're going to open the show with my friend Ian Matthews from Fairport Convention, and then I put together a phenomenal band with Leland Sklar, who you mentioned, a legendary bass player who's in the immediate family, and Dean Parks, equally legendary guitarist from Steely Dan, all these thousands of records that we've all heard and loved, and just a bunch of other musicians who are really phenomenal. I've got two different drummers coming down, one the drummer for the Goo Goo Dolls, Craig McIntyre, and the other, Stevie DeStanislao, played with CSN and played with David Gilmour and Kenny Loggins, and just a wonderful bunch of musicians. And we're going to play most of the songs off the record. And we're doing two shows. The first one's sold out. That's at 7. The second show at 9:15 still has a few tickets left, I believe.
So the record release party held at McCabe's in Santa Monica this evening. Now it has an all-star band backing you up, as you mentioned. So it's exciting times, no question about it. Now, I was reading your career, Steve. It's amazing the amount of work you've done over the years, and just the legendary people you've been around with. I know you recorded with David Crosby. Talk a little bit about working with David Crosby.
Well, David was a true brilliant songwriter, artist. I mean, that whole band, in my mind, it gets no better. I mean, you had these 4 brilliant songwriters and singers collaborating. David was a friend of mine for years, and he just was the old school. He was well read. He was had beautiful, unique ideas. He's the one who taught Joni Mitchell about open tunings. I loved working with him. It was always he was open for anything, whatever, So there were no boundaries or rules, and he was a legend. I miss him a lot. We were supposed to go on tour right before he passed away, and so I do play the music that we were going to play in a band called Our House, and we're going on tour in about a month, actually, less than a month, a couple weeks. So I do get to play the music that I was supposed to play with him on that tour, and it's just such beautiful music that seems like a good idea.
Now, I don't know where I read this. I think I read it online, or I may have heard it in one of your previous interviews. Did you meet Bob Dylan at an early age?
I did, a couple times, yeah. I actually, my mother was a painter, a fine artist, and she studied with a fellow named Norman Rabin, who was a phenomenal painting teacher. His father was Sholem Aleichem, the Yiddish poet and novelist who wrote Fiddle on the Roof, actually. And Norman was had a small class at Carnegie Hall that, if you were lucky to find out about it, because he was really something special. And I just was getting into painting myself when I was 16. I joined my mother in this small class of maybe 8 people, and one of the 8 people was Bob Dylan, who was studying art with Norman. And so that was exciting. And then I met him again years later, and mentioned that, and he was like, "You're too young to have been in that class." I said, "Well, I was 16 when I was in that class." So, yeah.
I mean, that's really amazing. So, I mean, after meeting Dylan, you must have said, hey, I got to get into this profession.
Well, I was already well into. I started playing when I was 8 or 9, and I played my first paid gig, when I was 13. So I was already. That's what I was doing. That's what I was going to do. So it was a huge, and he had a big impact on me. I was extremely well versed in Dylanology, and so I kept to myself. I didn't bug him during the class because we were there to study painting, not music. But yeah,
amazing. Now you've also done a lot of work composing music for films, television. Now you've worked with Robert Redford, if I'm not mistaken, right?
We did. He ended up narrating the film that I scored, and so we spent a whole day. Another great day that I had. We were just with him. The thing about this is nothing against young stars, but these legends, they earned it. I mean, Robert Redford was everything you could possibly hope he would be, and so that was fun. It turns out that I went to school with his kids, so he was like, "Oh, you went to my kids." So we had a little bonding over that, and it was a great day. He was just narrating the film, but I was recording it and kind of pseudo directing the session, and it was great. It's funny. I always remember one thing I said to him, because he's been an activist his whole life, and I said, "What do you do when you meet someone who's got opposing views?" Of course, this was long before now, when everybody's got opposing views. He said to me, "I find whatever it is we have in common, even if it's just that it's a nice day out, and we start from there." And I just thought that was a beautiful comment.
Extremely beautiful. Now, the thing is that you were the composer for the documentary. It was called Dying to Know. It was about Timothy Leary and Ram Dass. So now, Timothy Leary and Ram Dass, the spiritual master, how is your collaboration with them?
Well, Timothy had already died.
Right.
Ram Dass was living in Hawaii and saw the film, and unfortunately, when my friends, the director and the cinematographer, went to show him the film, I wasn't able to go. But so it came about because many people don't know that before Ram Dass was Ram Dass, he was at Harvard doing research, and his research partner was Timothy Leary, and they were doing the early research on LSD, and not its psychotropic thing, but its potential possible advantages in psychology that it might have. And they eventually got kicked out of Harvard, and it became this big deal where now it's illegal and so on and so forth. But and they went their separate ways, and Ram Dass became Ram Dass, and Timothy Leary did his thing. And when Timothy found out he was dying, mutual friends of both of us said, "Hey, you guys need to get together again. You started together. You should be together." So they arranged a meeting, and Ram Dass flew to California to be with Timothy for one afternoon, and then they said, somebody's got to film this. It's an iconic moment. So my friend Alan Kozlowski filmed it, just this conversation, and when they all looked at the film, they said, this is, at this hour conversation, they realized it really was the heart of a film, that they should build a film around it. So that's how it happened.
That's how it happened. Timothy Leary, I believe, died in the mid-'90s, 96. So Dying to Know was released. Do you remember the year?
Not that long ago, maybe 7 years ago. I mean, it took 15, 20 years from when they to really finish the film. There was a lot of archival footage that they had to find, and so it took a long time. Basically, so that's kind of, and one of the women, Gay Dillingham, who directed it, was kind of adopted by the group of friends. Say, Gay, you're going to direct this film, you're going to make this film, which didn't start out as a film, so that's how that happened.
And I have a couple of minutes left, Steve. I want to ask you, you mentioned an important word before about earning your success. And I think that you earned your success. I mean, not many people in the business, a competitive business like yours, gets to do wear as many hats as you've worn, from songwriter to composer to producer to playing with all these legendary artists. What would you say attributes to all your success in the music business, a competitive field?
Well, a couple things. One is I'm fortunate, I think, is that I came up in a time when there was more going on. I was in New York City. There was Broadway shows. I'd play a Broadway show. There were gigs at night. There were sessions in the day. The jingle world was strong. There was a lot of work. So, and I just persevered. The other thing, it's sort of a joke, but is true. I don't have a family. I don't have kids. I don't have pets. I don't have plants. I've always just done this all the time. If I'm not like working out or going for a run, so I have a real curiosity about all of it, and I wanted to. It all fascinates me, and so I just explored. Whether it was classical music or engineering or whatever, my curiosity got me to, and I had the time. I've had the time, and I persevered. That's basically it.
I mean, yeah, so much diverse work here. You've written scores for film and television, including ESPN Sportsweek featuring Greg Gumble. You performed on The Tonight Show, Jay Leno, Katie Couric, The Today Show, Regis and Kathie, Lee shows. I mean, and on. You've played with John Oates. Now, Cliff Richards, there was a story, maybe it was Keith Richards.
Yeah. Oh, Keith Richards, yes. Keith Richards, that was a great day. Yes, we did meet Keith Richards backstage at an immediate family. He came to the show, and he again, everything you would hope he would be, he was. He was funny, gracious. We set up an amp in case he wanted to play. He goes, "No, you guys have 3 guitar players. You're good. I'm just going to watch and enjoy." And he was going to stay for a couple songs. He stayed for the whole show, he and his wife. And, he was funny and lovely. I mean, we were talking at one point about pedals, because I have all these pedals to play. He goes, "Oh, I can't use pedals. I have a hard enough time standing on 2 feet. I couldn't stand on one and do pedals." So it was, anyway, yeah, that was... I've met a few of my heroes. I met Paul McCartney last year. He was at a rehearsal that I was doing. And, some of them I get to play with. I get to work with. I worked with James Taylor recently and Carole King. And some of them I get to meet. And it's one of the real treasures of being in this business for this long. It's these wonderful people.
I mean, this is unbelievable. Keith Richards from the Rolling Stones, I mean, admires your work. I mean, you can't make it up. I mean, what more can you say about Steve Postell?
Well, I just keep slogging along, and having a new record after all this is exciting. There's some beautiful players on it, and I was able to really take my time, especially because COVID hit, and I have my own studio, so I'm not paying by the hour, and I just pieced it together till it felt very satisfying. So I'm really happy, really grateful for Corto Valley Records and my manager David Helfand and all the amazing musicians who came in and joined me on the record. Well,
Steve, I really appreciate your time here. Thanks for coming on.
Thank Thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. It's the earliest radio show I've ever done, I think.
I know it's early. I appreciate you waking up. You're on the West Coast time.
There's no problem at all.
Thank you so much. I'm going to speak a little bit about this new release as well. So you take care. We'll speak soon.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
You got it. StevePostell.com is the website, StevePostell.com. The new album is Walking Through These Blues. The track list includes 12 tracks, number 1 being Bad Weather, number 2, Walking Through These Blues, then you have Buried Stone, How Far We've Come, which we played a little excerpt of that previously. Track number 5, When the Lights Go Out. Number 6, 100 Years Old, Wait Until You Get Here is another one. In the Presence of a King, Until I Do, Pipestone Lake, Is This It, Wicked Wind are the tracks, Walking Through These Blues. And you can catch Steve on his tour list, April 2nd to Santa Barbara, California, Lobero Theater. And you have April 3rd, the Coach House, Capistrano, California. Then Steve is coming to my neck of the woods in Connecticut, April 17th in Newtown, Connecticut. April 18th, the Music Hall in Tarrytown, New York. And April 19th, the National, Richmond, Virginia. And you can catch all this information on his website, StevePostell.com. Thanks so much, Steve. Good luck to you. Until next week,
Thanks
happy collecting to all.